called Fading Pink, and it's about Lake Bogoria that was once covered in a beautiful pink cover, and it's now slowly losing its iconic glory due to climate change. Now, Stanley Nyaringita paints this picture of how rising waters in Lake Bogoria that are actually hurting the flamingo population from more than 1.5 million to about just 500,000 due to the floods. Take a look.
Lake Bogoria in Baringo County has for years been a must-visit destination for many tourists who are eager to witness the wondrous hot springs, erupting geysers, and a breathtaking spectacle of millions of lesser flamingos tinting the alkaline waters pink. However, this vibrant ecosystem, home to over 370 bird species, including flamingos, is slowly declining.
Na ndege ilikuwa imejaa kabisa, na kuna ishara ya ndege wakati inaelekea kunyesha ilikuwa naanza kutambaa hapa juu. Unaonyesha sasa kuna ishara ya mvua kunyesha. So ilikuwa anatembea kwa wingi, anaenda huko chini, angine anarudi pande hii jioni na asubuhi. So ilikuwa anatembea namna hiyo, lakini wakati wa tuoni imekuwa chache. Kuna hii flamingo ingine, sisi tulikuwa tunaita motoro, ile kubwa kiwango ya kisimama. Ilikuwa nabuatana na Kenyatta. Kenyatta ikuja pande hii, inakuja hapo. So hiyo atuoni, sijui imeenda wapi.
And you realize that one of the components of climate change that has really affected us is the chemistry of the lake. How the immediate ecosystem, the wetland, was affected, and this has also affected how the lake used to behave. So with that, and even with other phenomena being attributed with the traditional way of life, is that we've heard our elders speaking about the history of Lake Bogoria, which is associated with the way the lake lives, the way we live also.
The lake, which in the recent past was 34 kilometers per square, has progressively seen a 10 kilometer per square increase due to rising water levels. That is massive. Authorities at the Lake Bogoria National Reserve have noted that this ecological upheaval poses a significant threat to the very icons that have defined the lake's global allure, the migratory lesser flamingos.
Flamingos is the main tourism attraction within, it's actually branded as branding Lake Bogoria. But now when the numbers has gone down, definitely the flow of the visitors has slightly gone down, which is reducing in terms of revenue collection and in terms of visitation.
The most famous residents of this lake, the flamingos, are hardest hit by these drastic changes, with their numbers reduced from more than 1.5 million to about 500,000.
Saying that the water has diluted the salinity. Salinity is what controls the rate of growth of the algae. That's the food for the flamingos. Now we know that these lakes have supported up to 1 million flamingos at some point. Now feeding 1 million flamingos, you need a lot of food. Algae can manage in its optimum situations to reproduce at a very high rate that the flamingos can feed while the algae is reproducing. But when the alkaline levels go down and the conditions are not optimum, then you find that the flamingos would start struggling. As you know, they're filter feeders. So when they go into the water, they're sucking in the water, and they're sucking in the water which comes in with the algae, and they pump out the water, and they remain with the algae, and they swallow. So when it takes too long for the flamingo to get satisfied, you realize that they end up using a lot of energy to take that food.
These unique birds require fresh water for feeding and bathing, as well as a shoreline to land on, and these things have been lately in short supply. Experts say that due to the reduced salinity in the lake, which is caused by the floods, the lake's long-term ability to provide food and breeding for over 1 million flamingos is in serious doubt.
Like the Badenge, Prosopis juriflora, it is expanding very fast, and what the impact is, it reduces the capacity of the national reserve to hold other wildlife, because it reduces the grass biomass, it reduces the palatable species that are useful to the wildlife. So if it is not controlled, we will have less and less productive ecosystem that is providing adequate food for the other wildlife species.
According to the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, UNESCO Project Coordinator Faith Manthe, this crisis needs to be fixed urgently.
When we look at the current waterbird census that was done in 2021 and 2022, you'll see that in 2021, although we have had a decline of it from 1 million, we had a census that was done for the lesser flamingo, which totaled to around 252,000. Around that figure for the lesser flamingo. Coming to 2022, you realize that when we had the waterbird count, and more so when you're looking at the lesser flamingo, it was at around 92,000. Clearly there is a lessening of this particular species, which only comes to Lake Bogoria to do their forage, and no any other lake in the world. So one of the reasons that we're experiencing in this particular area, and this is when it comes to environment, we are looking at the agriculture that is being done here. You find that because of the pesticides, because of some of the chemicals that are being used in the farming, some of them end up in the river, because you find that the communities that live here, they have close proximity to Lake Bogoria. So at the end of the day, when they're doing farming, again, they're fetching water from the Lake Bogoria, all the chemicals end up to the lake. And this affects also how the chemicals get to the areas where you find that the water birds eat the algae, and this is the food that they depend on for them to multiply.
However, for a rigorous restoration of Lake Bogoria to happen, experts advise that there needs to be an understanding of the long-term impacts of the rising water levels so as to develop strategies for coexistence with the altered ecosystem. Stanley Nyaringita, TV 47.